Hey, it's me again, and I'm on to yet another of the comparisons between the first and second edition. This time I'm going to be doing social studies. I've already recorded the math and the language arts. I'm going to do the science right after the social studies. So if you're waiting on that one, I'm sorry. I just pulled them out of the shelf in whatever order they happen to be in. So anyway, if this is the first one that you're looking at, remember I'm going to be comparing the first editions. Those would be the Apple books with the second editions that have all the children on the cover. And I just kind of want to share with you some of the things that remain the same, and then of course all of the differences. I want to assure you, because people have been asking questions, that if there is something you absolutely loved about the first book, especially in the front material, you love the product guidelines, or you really like the rubric, or you like the free choice proposals, all of that has been incorporated here. It's just been updated. For example, because while we're talking about it, in the first book, I know a lot of people are concerned about something happening to the product guidelines. Remember, the product guidelines are used when we use our menus and the children are, say, creating a commercial. These guidelines are used so that this is provided to the student so that you don't have to constantly answer the same question over and over. And there's lots of different ways to use these, provide them to children. I discuss that in the book. But one of the differences that you're going to find is that in the first edition, the print was a little bit, or the font was a little bit smaller. There were 12 cards per page. In the second edition, there's only 9. So our font is quite a bit bigger, and it's somewhat easier, more friendly for some of our students. So the font is just a little bit different. But the product guidelines themselves are still included. The rubrics are still included. All of the how do you use menus are included. One of the nice things that's new in the second edition in the front material is I do give you quite a bit more research about choice and its benefits. In the first book, I do a lot of practical. Everybody knows, they have a feeling that it works, but in this one I give you some more examples if you need to have some documentation, some support about researchers and what they said. You will find some of that in the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about the menus that are found in the new book. What I did is, and it's very informal, I just went through and I printed the table of contents for the new book. When we compare the two, the new 3 through 5 social studies, the second edition, has 10 brand new menus in the sense that they are brand new topics that did not exist in the first one. Of the 17 that remained, they were all completely revamped. And I'm going to give an example of what exactly revamped looks like. Because people were asking me, hey, okay, I really loved the first one. I have the first one. Districts were asking, look, I already have 20 copies of the first one. Do I really need the second one? The second one I made sure it has brand new information, and all of the menus have been revamped. So to give you an idea, this is the actual table of contents. So these are all of the menus that you're going to see. If there's a purple dot in front of it, it's going to be a brand new topic, so brand new menus. So I have added the colonial period, the War of 1812, and the 20th century. I've also added civic duties, innovators and entrepreneurs, regions of the U.S., settlement patterns, chronology, and current events. As with all of the books, when I first start writing these, I always put some surveys out on Twitter, I put them out on Facebook, I ask for feedback and say, hey, if you're teaching this, tell me what it is that's missing that you really wish that you had. And what you're looking at, oh my goodness, you're looking at my finger, that's what you're looking at. What you are looking at in this list, sorry, oh my goodness, are the main topics that teachers had brought up and said, hey, we need something for that. So that's where the purple dotted menu items come from. When deciding on these, one of the differences you will see is when I did the first editions, these came out in 2006, one of the things the social studies teachers had asked for was some literature connections. So you're going to find some connections here, like I talk about Liddy, I talk about Mustang Flats. There's some literature that's been connected here. All of that literature has been removed. I'm not sure if districts just aren't incorporating or clustering language arts with social studies anymore, but it didn't seem to be as much of an issue, so they were removed to give us enough space to put some of the brand new topics in. So let's take a look at some of the differences, some of the nitty-gritty, so that you can see and you can make a decision if If the new one is going to be more towards your liking. As we go through, I'm going to show you some of the menus. I'm always going to keep the original on the left, the new on the right, the updated on the right. So let's take a peek at some of the menus so that you can kind of see some of the changes I have as I make a mess with these books. Some of the changes that have taken place. Depending on, because when we talk about the revamp, that's the one that most people are interested in. Look, is the menu going to be exactly the same? And when I say that every menu has been revamped, I mean that every single activity or task has been looked at, reworded, potentially products have been changed, etc. So what you're looking at on the left, this is the original, the first edition. You'll see that the Revolutionary War was a tic-tac-toe menu. In the new book, the updated version, you will also see that it remains a tic-tac-toe menu. But here are some of the updates that you're going to find. Many of my tic-tac-toe menus are based around 3 different topics. This menu uses causes of the war, major events of the war, and results of the war. One of the changes, and you'll notice that the original one had that too, but the original did not indicate for the free choice what topic that should be about. So potentially if the children chose to go across, they could do major events of the war, they could do results of the war, and then the teacher might have to argue with them here about what topic that free choice should be about. In the second editions, you're going to find that the free choice automatically tells you what that topic has to be. So that when the children select it, they automatically are doing one product from each of the 3 different areas. To give you an idea of how some of these tasks have been rewritten, it said, create a set of trading cards for the events that led to the Revolutionary War. In the updated version, you're going to find it's a little more specific. Not only do you have to do the created trading card, but you also have to identify at least 2 heroes that were involved in the event. A lot of the standards have gotten more specific about the role that people play in historical events. And I've tried to reflect that in the tweaking, the updating of the different menus. We also have, for example, this says the war was caused by a series of events that built upon each other, created a 3-dimensional stacking model. You're going to find the same thing here. We're still creating a 3-dimensional stacking model, but again, patriot heroes. We're going back to bring the people in. So you might find, depending on which one we're looking at, you might find a product has changed. You might find the wording has changed. In a lot of these menus, you're going to find the focus has changed a little bit to more directly represent what the standards are asking for. And in this case, they were asking a lot about the people who are involved in the Revolutionary War. So between the 2 books, you may find that the format, for those menus that repeat themselves, the format remains the same, but there are significant differences in wordings, and sometimes entire tasks have been removed and replaced. Teachers give me feedback a lot and say, hey, you know what, my students really didn't like this one. Like I haven't had anybody pick this one. And if you've had, 90 to 100 children do it and nobody selects it, that might be one that you look at for replacing. And if teachers give me that feedback, when I go through and do a second edition or a tweak, I'm going to fix that. So this is one, again, in which the format was the same. I also have some where the format has actually changed. This is the original book, our first edition, and this is the Civil War investigation. You'll see that it's a list menu, and all of our different topics are listed, and of course all of our point values are mixed up. In the second edition, the Civil War menu, I'm going to do one of these, make it kind of big for you. The Civil War menu has been changed into a 3-topic list. And the reason why I like the 3-topic list, and this particular format is new to the grades 3 through 5 books, is because when I use a general list, potentially the children can skip certain objectives. When I use a 3-topic list, I've specifically said I have a section on before the war, during the war, and after the war. And the instructions do state that the children must complete at least one activity from each of those sections. This allows them that if there's a certain interest that they have, they are welcome to do more than one in that area, but they must complete at least one activity or one product from each of those areas. That makes sure that I know that they're going through and getting the content that's required. So sometimes the format has changed a little bit. It's gone from a list to a 3-topic list. I have one other that went from a 2-5-8 to a tic-tac-toe. But the menus are going to be familiar as far as the formats. If you really love 2-5-8, you're going to find the 2-5-8s in this book. If you like the tic-tac-toes, of course, you're going to find those. So the main difference is, again, if you loved what was in the front, you're going to find all that valuable stuff in the front. If you like the product guidelines, those are there. This is all going to be updated, especially with technology. There is no mention of VHS and DVDs, although I promise you back when this one came out, those were what we used. So I've tried to make the wording here a little bit more adaptable so that as technology changes, it will not be as much of an issue. So we have, the updated technology, we have updated wording. It also does reflect some of the new standards that have come out in the state of Texas, just because that's where I'm from. And then, of course, it also has a nod to Common Core as far as some of the language arts and writing projects or products that the students will be creating. As always, as you go through and look at the books, or if you have questions specifically on is a menu in there, I gave you the table of contents, but if you really want to know, you can drop me an email. My email address is Laurie, first name, Laurie, @giftedconsultant.com. You're also welcome to send me a message on Twitter. You can reply to me on the Differentiate Instruction with Menus Facebook page. I will try to answer as many questions or any questions that you might have on the differences between the two. I'm really excited about the 3 through 5 coming out. Those of you who are asking, by the way, I haven't mentioned this in the other videos, there's 6 through 8 second edition is going to be coming out next year in the spring. Super excited about having those updated as well, because those were the first 2 series that came out. So anyway, let me know what your questions are, and I am on to doing the science.